Well, everyone, please welcome with me to the show today, Rob Walch of Libsyn. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
We are really privileged to have you with us today. For those that don't know, tell us a little bit about you and what you do with Libsyn.
I have been with Libsyn since 2007. I've been podcasting myself since 2004. And I am the VP of Podcaster Relations. And my job is this, what I'm doing right now, talking to you, other podcasters. So this is my job.
Excellent.
So it's a fun job.
You've been in podcasting for a while. How did you get started?
I was looking for a hobby. I really was just looking for a hobby. I worked for a company. I was VP of Sales and Marketing for an electronics company, and I did a lot of traveling, 4 out of 5 weeks on the road. I just finished up my MBA, and I was bored, and I needed something to do at night. And I said, "Oh, this podcasting thing would be fun," because I was just started to listen to them. And I said, "I'm going to start my own podcast, and I can just record when I'm on the road, and bring a headset and just set up some interviews." And took over, and by April of the following year, I had quit my job and was podcasting full time. Awesome. So 16 years plus in this space, awesome. Full time.
What about with Libsyn? You said you started in 2007?
2007. So originally I had a podcast called Podcast 411, still out there. It's on hiatus, that's what I say. And it was about interviewing other podcasters. It was the first podcast about interviewing podcasters. And I talked about podcasting, and I was out there all the time going, Libsyn's the best. Libsyn's great. You know, you need to be on Libsyn. My show's on Libsyn. Here's why. And they came to me and said, you talk about us all the time. We just want a job. And I went, okay. And that's how I got with Libsyn. I got to know the guys that ran the company, and they wanted me on board. And I've been with them since August 6, 2007. Is when I started.
Excellent. So for those who don't know a lot about hosts, kind of what is a host and why do we need one?
All right. So a lot of people think they see the podcasts in Apple. The podcasts are hosted in Apple. That's the misconception. None of the podcasts are hosted on Apple. Apple doesn't host the podcasts. They require you to host the files somewhere else, and they require that file where you're hosting that they support byte range requests for the files and have certain head requests and other things that you don't need to know about if you find a podcast host. And they have recommended places for you to go to host, and obviously Libsyn's one of those. And then we also help you manage the RSS feed. And that's the other part that people don't realize is what Apple really is just a directory of RSS feeds. You submit your feed to them. That's what they hold on to. And then when someone subscribes to your podcast, they're subscribing to your RSS feed. And now it's not even called subscribe in Apple anymore. Now it's called follow. So when they follow your podcast on Apple, they're getting your RSS feed. And the RSS feed, at the simplest terms, it's a treasure map for where your audio files or video are hidden on the internet. So just think of that as this treasure map that's out there. And every time you release a new episode, that treasure map automatically updates. And anyone that's got it can then find your most recent treasure, being the audio file.
So just kind of trying to break this down into simplest terms. Libsyn is a place where I store my files. And you guys have the map that tells Apple and Spotify and all these places where to find the treasure.
Right. You upload the files to us. We help you manage your RSS feed. And then you get statistics back. So that's the other big piece is now you get the statistics. So whether someone's listening at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Ghana or Google Podcasts or wherever they're listening, you're going to get those stats back in your Libsyn account. So it's a central hub for your stats as well. So it's not just one thing to create the file. You kind of want to know, is anyone listening? You want to know maybe where they're listening from, what applications they're using. And we give you that information as well.
So what are some things that kind of make Libsyn stand out with all the other hosting options available? You've also got, Buzzsprout and the free option Anchor and Captivate.fm. And I mean, there's more than I could probably name just off the top of my head. So what's one thing that really makes Libsyn stand out? There's a lot of podcast hosts out there, a lot. Again, Libsyn was first. We offer up to RSS feed that is 100% Apple Podcast compliant. And then we offer up many other RSS feeds. So we give destinations, which is unique about Libsyn versus others. You get a different feed for Spotify and a different feed for iHeartRadio and a different one for Ghana.
And when Ghana launched podcast support, and Spotify launched podcast support, and Google Podcasts launched podcast support, and Amazon Music, Libsyn was the launch partner. We're the only one that can say we were the launch partner with all of those. So we're the first place someone goes to, one of these services goes to when they launch support for podcasting. So we help you get out there to more places than anyone else, and we help you get out there first, and then have better control over that. So some places you use the same feed to get out to all these different places. But what if you want to have a special deal with Pandora where your content gets promoted and you release to Pandora a day early? You can't do that with the other services. You can with Libsyn. And then we can give you statistics, better stats back. We can say, oh, this definitely came from the RSS feed for Pandora. This one came from iHeartRadio. So with most, you don't know if it was iHeartRadio other than looking at the user agent to see if it was the iHeartRadio app. But a lot of people use the iHeartRadio website, and that will come up as Safari or Firefox or Mozilla. So you don't really get the full feel of what's happening at these destinations unless you have these separate feeds. So that is one thing that makes us unique. Another thing that makes us unique is everything we do is about helping promote your brand. We're not going to force our brand on you. We step out of the way. Most people don't know that we're, the place where Trader Joe's hosts their podcast, or Consumer Reports, or Google, or Oracle. Right? We get out of the way of these the folks and let you be the brand. And that's one thing Libsyn's always been very heavy on is we don't want to take over your show. We just want to help you promote you.
That's excellent. Not trying to promote yourself and just letting the brand shine through. That's good stuff. Mm-hmm. You mentioned statistics a few times. What are there's a lot of different terms and numbers cited across all the different things. When people are asking about following, they're talking about download numbers, listens, active listens, engaged listeners, a stream. Can you kind of help break down some of those terms of what is actually important?
In podcasting world, there's a lot of misnomers about what is this or what is that. And really, the IAB, which is Interactive Advertising Bureau, we define everything as downloads. We call it a download. And in podcasting, everything is a download. If someone clicks play on a browser, that's a download. It's downloading to the buffer on your computer, but it's technically a download. Everything is a download. So there's no streaming in podcasting. So then when you look at the stats, there's two different types of stats. There's server-side stats. That's your podcast host. And then there's client-side stats. And those are stats that you get from Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify, the places where people consume. So on the server-side stats, what we can tell you is how many downloads you had. That's how many times the file was requested and that we delivered that file, or at least in the IAB's eyes, at least 1 minute of content for it to be IAB compliant. And we let you know that. We don't know if people listened. Nobody knows if they listened. Some people have claimed, we can tell you. No, you cannot tell if they've listened, because depending on the internet connection and a bunch of other factors and the buffer and the device they're using, it could be that they listened to 3 seconds and it downloaded the whole episode, or it could be that they listened to 33 minutes and it only downloaded 33 of an hour long, right? So you really don't know how long they listened. But we know if at least a minute was delivered. And that's what the server side, your podcast host, can give you. We can tell you geographically where they came from. We can tell you which user agents. We have a code that you can put on your files. This is something that makes you unique with Libsyn. For your individual files, you can put this code in there that you then share with a guest. So you have a guest and they say, I'll promote your show. Yeah, have me on. I'll promote. So you give them the direct link, you give them the embed player, and we can put a code in that, and we can tell you if that code that you gave out for that user for that episode was used. Did people listen to that? So you get some, in the statistics, you get a way to see, hey, did this person who was on my show really promote it? Or was it just people found it because of who they were? And that way, you know to have them back or not. Another thing is you can do A/B testing. You can design your website and go, I'm going to put the player here on this site, and I'm going to put a player here on this site, and which one causes more engagement? Which one gets played more? So you can do A/B testing. So there's another piece that's, unique with Libsyn. And then the other, go back to the question, what's unique about Libsyn versus a Buzzsprout or Captivate? We don't limit your success. We don't say, if you sign up for Libsyn.com account and you're Dan Carlin and you get 3 million downloads an episode, we don't charge you more. You get charged the same amount. If you were Dan Carlin and you had Hardcore History on Buzzsprout or Captivate, you'd have bills in the thousands and thousands of dollars per month. Yeah, tens of thousands. Whereas Dan pays $20.
That is rather remarkable, because thinking about that type of traffic, because with a show like Dan Carlin, it's not necessarily you got to go listen to just this episode and then the next episode. You may go back and pick an episode from 4 years ago that is a 3.5 hour show.
Right. And another unique feature too is we support not just audio but video and PDF files. So Apple Podcasts supports audio, video, PDF. We're one of the few podcast hosts that support audio, video, and PDFs. And we don't change your file. What you upload to us is what gets downloaded. If you want your file to be at 320 kilobits per second, it's too high in our opinion, but we'll let you have it that way. You want to do it at 40 kilobits per second? We'll leave it at that. That's what Mark Maron does. So we don't change your files. We trust that the podcaster knows what they want to do with their files, and they want it to sound a certain way. And if you want to do stereo for a spoken word podcast, do stereo. If you want to do mono, which we recommend, do mono. But we won't change your files.
If someone was looking at switching from their current host, let's say they're with the free Anchor and they're looking to kind of up their game to a little bit more professional level, how does that go about? Do their episodes transfer automatically from one to the other when they sign up? Do they have something to
we'll
manually
we'll
upload?
Import all your files.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll take your RSS feed and we'll import all the files off the RSS feed. Make it easy for you. We import the files, what's called the GUID tag, which is a unique identifier for that episode. And then we clone your feed, bring that over, and then you just put have a redirect put in place at Anchor to the feed with us. And that's really it. And your subscribers move over. Then we'll give you advice about how to claim your show, because a lot of people let Anchor submit their show to Apple, which means they don't have control of their show. They can't go in and see the client side stats. They can't go into Apple Podcasts and see how much consumption is being done. So we'll give you that information on how to work with Apple to get that claimed.
I know you guys you've been working on a lot behind the scenes at Libsyn, and there's a beta for version 5 that's available. What are some of the things coming up with Libsyn that you personally are excited about offering to the community?
Well, as everyone in the space always knows, Libsyn's always had the best tools. I mean, that doesn't go, it's just a given, right? We've had the best tools. Our stats have been the gold standard. Now we have the best UI to go with the best tools. So the new Libsyn 5 UI is the best UI in the industry. We brought in an expert to help us with this redesign on the UI. And so now we have the cleanest, the nicest UI to go with the best tools. So we're real excited about Libsyn 5. And then we have some additional new features that come in there. There's some integration with Canva. We just announced an integration with Canva so that you can, when you're creating an episode, you want to do some custom episode artwork. Right when you're uploading to the episode, there's a button there. You click on that, go over to Canva, create that custom episode artwork. Maybe you have put in a custom number for that episode, and then it throws it back. And that makes your show look really good in Amazon Music. Amazon Music does a great job showing episode artwork. So having this Canva integration makes it really easy now to create custom artwork for each episode. So we're doing little things like that. A lot of what we try to do at Libsyn, beyond giving you all the tools you need, is to make the tools such that your job is easier as a podcaster. So at 2:30 in the morning, when most podcasters are publishing, every few seconds counts. Right? It's a few more seconds of sleep that you're going to get. And so we try to do the things that help you as a podcaster, because we are podcasters, the folks at Libsyn. We've been podcasting, amongst, some of the key folks at Libsyn, 15 plus years on, at least 4 different folks at Libsyn.
Incredible. That is a theme that has come up with almost every interview is making things easier. Podcasting is a lot of work that some people getting started might not know. They might just think, I just, I'll record on my phone and hit send.
That's why there's 1 million dead podcasts plus on Anchor, right? That's the other reason you don't want to be on Anchor, right? Anchor right now is full of what we call zombies and pirates. There's a lot of shows that are dead, right? But the RSS feed works. But if you go into Apple Podcasts, you find, another dead Anchor show. Another dead Anchor show. Do you really want your brand with that? And then people take other people's feeds and they submit them into Anchor, and you got pirated content. So it's like a video game, zombies and pirates. It's not something that most people want to have their brand associated with. And so with Libsyn, again, we've got more active podcasts with more downloads than anyone else on the active side. Over 6 billion downloads last year.
Just last year.
Just last year.
Do you have an all-time stat for?
Oh, I don't even know what our all-time number is. It's really high. It's more than anybody else. We've had more downloads on Libsyn than any other podcast host all time. It's not even close.
That's incredible. Well, Rob, I won't keep you too long today, but I do recommend, if you are looking for a host, Libsyn's the way to go. I don't have an affiliate program with them. They're just good at what they do. All of my clients that I've worked with in the past, if they're looking for a host, I send them to Libsyn, because you send them to the best when you want the best. So if you're looking for a host, I highly recommend checking out what's going on over there. That new interface, it is beautiful. It is intuitive. It's easy to use, and the stats show up nice on there too. So
and if anyone has questions, email me directly. I put my email out there, Rob, R-O-B as in Robert, R-O-B @libsyn.com. Just email me with any questions you have.
Well, Rob, is there anywhere else that you'd like to send people to follow along with what you're doing?
You can listen to our official feed, the Feed podcast. So if you go search for The Feed and then Libsyn, we have a podcast we release every other week, and we just give you what's going on in the world of podcasting. I do it with my co-host, Elsie Escobar, and we just have fun. We just talk about podcasting. Yes, we take a really geeky subject and we try to make some fun with it and give stats and let you know where you are. I mean, one of the things Libsyn's done longer than anyone else, we're the first ones to do, is give stats on what's happening across our platform, across all our shows. What percentage are going to Apple Podcast, and the Apple Podcast ecosystem, 60% of consumption versus Spotify, which is around 13%. Which, by the way, that might sound low, but that's better than number 3, which is Google Podcast at 2.5%. And then we talk about Overcast being third, about 1.8. So those are your top 4 places for consumption. These are things we update every month. And we talk about what typical numbers are for podcasts, again, that host with Libsyn, to give you a feel of how your show is measuring up versus others. So try to cut through the BS that's out there and get right to here's the real data. Forget what you might have read on some news site. Here's what's really happening.
Here's the top 5 blah blah blahs of blah blah blah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Rob, thank you so much again for joining us, and we will have you back again sometime, I'm sure. And thank you, sir.
All right, Chris, thank you for having me on.